Welcome to the Innovation Nation on Career Buzz, Canada's unique radio conversation that empowers lives, enriches careers, and energizes organizations. I'd like to welcome you all to the Innovation Nation on Career Buzz. I'm Stephen Armstrong, and I'm pleased to be your host today on Innovation Nation on Career Buzz. Innovation Nation explores the intersection of the real world business practice and people's career development. We explore how individuals turn their personal passion for innovation into tangible commercial success. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Well, our last show we focused on cybersecurity at the national and global level, actually. So, cybersecurity in the broadest sense, how governments, you know, protect the country against hacking, from nuclear power stations to nuclear weapons to military aircraft, civilian aircraft, banks, your personal data. Well, today we're going to focus on a subset, a very specific area of cybersecurity, and we call it fleet cyber for the connected vehicles. So, granted that cybersecurity covers just about every human activity, we're going to focus on the car. Today, we're focused on the car. The car is no longer just an unconnected machine that is a relationship between the driver and the car itself. There's a whole influx of digital innovations, from infotainment connectivity to over-the-air and software updates to turning cars into information clearinghouses. While delivering significant customer value, these changes also expose vehicles to the seamier side of the digital revolution. Hackers and other black hat intruders are attempting to gain access to the critical in-vehicle electronic units and data, potentially compromising critical safety functions and customer privacy. We addressed this topic in this show, and our guest today was on the show before, a few years back. He's a true expert on cybersecurity, and he seems to have found a special niche here in transportation systems, cars. It's AJ Khan. He's the founder of Vehiculla Incorporated and has over 20 years of experience in governance, risk, and compliance, and 13 years of experience in cybersecurity, innovation, and emerging technologies. AJ is an ardent advocate of cybersecurity and governance, risk, and compliance. And in his view, there is a critical need to address cybersecurity in today's connected and cloud deployment. And if considerable effort is not made to address this issue, corporations will incorporate considerable security debt that will manifest itself later in the form of major security breaches. AJ is a published author, and his book, Automotive Cyber Governance, is focused on defining cyber governance best practices for the connected, autonomous, and electric vehicles. AJ is an MBA from, I think it's from York University in Toronto. I think he'll let me know in a second. Is that correct, AJ? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Stephen, good to be back, and thanks for inviting me. Actually, it's University of Toronto. I'm from
Oh,
Rotman School of
oh,
Management.
it's the U of T. Okay,
Yeah.
I got them mixed up. Well, let's start straight away. I give that pretty long-winded introduction there, but you've really come a long way in the last few years. In the sense that you're now deeply specializing in a specific area of cybersecurity, what you call fleet cybersecurity for connected vehicles. What is it?
So, fleet cyber, when we start thinking about it, it's more than just the vehicle itself. It's the entire ecosystem around the vehicle. And the important thing here to understand is that, yes, the vehicles need to be secure. But when you start thinking about the ecosystem around the vehicle, like EV charging stations or the data which is going in the cloud, or if you're looking at the software on our vehicle, or even if you think of the drivers or the owner operators of the vehicle, all of them need to be cybersecurity aware, and that's what I call fleet cyber. And one of the important things here to consider is the data itself, right? Where is our data going? And when we talk about connected vehicles, the data can be anywhere. So I like to look at it from this vehicle perspective also, but then everything around the vehicle, and that's what I'm calling fleet cyber.
I just want to say up front, we've all seen movies in recent years where people fall afoul of the government or of some security services, and of course they can hack into your car, stop the brakes from working, get into the guidance system and send you over a cliff into the ocean, or simply, and that's more in Hollywood. But let's say you owe a debt, they can shut your car down and just say you're not able to drive it. Is this what you're talking about, or is this more Hollywood stuff?
I would say Hollywood is here today. It's definitely something which is doable with connected vehicles. We do get a lot of um, vulnerabilities in these modern day vehicles, and uh, the one of the things which is there is that the examples which you gave. I'll give you another example, which is a ransomware 2.0 example. So we are going on the road, let's say I'm driving, and I get a message on my phone that your vehicle has been taken over, and at the same time the doors are locked and the vehicle is the speed goes up, and then I get the message, pay me so much in Bitcoin, otherwise I will crash the vehicle. This is the
While you're driving hard, could you pay them?
Yeah. Well, at
You're
that
just
stage someone
illustrating.
else is driving, right? At that stage someone else is actually driving. Like these scenarios are now possible, and every day we get more and more vulnerabilities in various manufacturers. And one of the things which is there is that obviously uh, from a manufacturing perspective, they are taking more and more emphasis on vehicle cybersecurity, but at the same time we need to look at it from a wider perspective and make sure everyone is aware of these challenges and all stakeholders step up to this. Um, this example which I was giving, uh, this is just one example. There are other possible attack scenarios. As you mentioned, it doesn't have to be just about someone taking off the over the vehicle. Someone could just stop the vehicle. That's a denial of service attack. So there are different scenarios here.
Okay, well, AJ, let's go through how did you get into this space? Let's start maybe with when you first get into cybersecurity. Not your early career, but when you first started getting into cybersecurity. How did you get into this space of the vehicles?
Yeah, well, I've been in cybersecurity for 20 plus years, so it's been quite a while. And during that time, I've worked in, the aviation field, banking, finance, telco, government, and of course, automotive field. Uh, During the last few years, I would say maybe 2017 onwards, I started exploring automotive cybersecurity because obviously it's a connected environment. And when we start thinking about the connected environment, then we start thinking about how cybersecurity is important for it. Around 2019, I started working with different entities on automotive cybersecurity. These include Transport Canada, Automotive Parts Manufacturing Association of Canada, Canadian Standards Alliance, CSA group, which makes many standards, ANISA, which is the European Union Information Security Agency, and many others. I started exploring what is happening on this technology transformation side. And one of the things which I do want to highlight is something with the acronym CASE, CASE. So CASE is connected, autonomous, secure, and electric, right? So that's the transformation which is happening in the mobility space. And as someone who really did not have much background as far as the mechanical aspects of a vehicle is concerned, when the vehicle started becoming connected, and when I started associating with all these different entities and the manufacturers themselves, so I started looking at the technology inside the vehicle, and then how to secure that. And that has been my journey during the last, I would say, 7 8 years.
What what would people hire you to specifically do? What would be a typical day or a typical week? How would you
So,
are you working in a consulting capacity? Are you an employee? Are you a contract person? How do these people engage you, and specifically what value do you deliver?
so I founded a startup, Vehikila. Vehikila is basically looking at number of solutions for automotive cybersecurity. Consulting is one part of it. I'll give you an example of a few consulting way I move forward. So, for example, I could look at the fleet cyber strategy. So, if you are a large fleet owner, what is your cyber strategy as far as fleets are concerned, connected vehicles are concerned? I am also working with the entities on developing fleet SOC. So just as we have a security operations center for IT cybersecurity, I also look towards developing fleet SOC. So this is a central location where all vehicles are being monitored for a particular organization. Their real-time cyber monitoring is happening. Their asset management, risk assessment, those are happening. And Vehikila, my company, is actually developing tools, solutions around these cyber monitoring and asset management. And I have patents around that, IP around that. So I am quite deep into automotive cybersecurity and fleet cyber, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Many, many years ago, a long time ago, I had an assignment, consulting assignment with Chubb Security Systems in Toronto, actually. And in the middle of the night, what I had to do was be aware and observe their central security building. It was actually around at the time somewhere in Midtown Toronto, and I had to actually observe how they monitor buildings. This is the same thing. It sounds like there's a central monitoring system monitoring vehicles in a particular fleet for a particular company, and there's a whole security network set up to do that. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. And it's same like in IT security, we have all these computers everywhere, and we have data centers, and we have payment card holder data environments. We have different infrastructure, and all of that is monitored through a central SOC for IT cybersecurity for a bank, for any organization. So same thing with fleet cyber. So if an organization has 1,000 vehicles or
Yeah,
5,000
amazing.
vehicles. They would need to monitor them. They would need to onboard them. They would need to know what is the software on those vehicles. They would need to look at the supplier cybersecurity. So, all of that which we talk about in cybersecurity, that would have to be tailored and tweaked for fleet cyber, and that the knowledge of that environment has to be looked at. And I
The
will
big,
mention.
sorry, the big difference is that in fleet cybersecurity, they're all moving. It's always in dynamic motion versus a building which is static.
That is the biggest challenge, right? I mean, so if you think about it, a web server which is being used for a banking application, it is in a data center or it's in a cloud, and that has layers of cybersecurity. So, and it's a static environment. The environment doesn't change, so it can be made pretty secure. But when you think of a moving vehicle, and
Yeah.
that moving vehicle could be a car, a truck, a bus, or it could even be a drone, for example, right? So when you think about that, it's moving from point A to point B, and let's say you're monitoring it from the fleet SOC, and you see that it's being hacked. So there's indicators of compromise. So what does the person remotely in the fleet SOC? What do they do? Do they stop the vehicle on the side of the road, or do they do something else? The issue is that maybe criminals might be just behind that vehicle. They are trying to hack into that vehicle. And if the remote operator stops the vehicle on the side of the road, the criminals might just
Yep.
like the remote operator is doing the criminal's job then. So one of the important things which is there is in fleet cyber, and which I am looking into it long term, is context based AI. So you have to look at the environment and see whether that environment, how is that changing, what is the context from a cyber perspective, and then take any remedial action. Another example could be that the vehicle is going through a forest fire, right? I mean, or it's a hurricane, or tornado. So if that at that moment in time you make a decision which is not the correct decision, it could be fatal to people. So fleet cyber is also about health and safety of the ecosystem, the people in the vehicle. So it's a much more complex environment than the traditional IT cybersecurity environment.
Got you. I'm Stephen Armstrong. You're listening to the Innovation Nation on Career Buzz here on CIUT 89.5 FM in Toronto and worldwide online at CIUT.FM. In a nutshell, like one sentence, what's the difference between a connected vehicle and an electric vehicle?
So a connected vehicle, an electric vehicle is also a connected vehicle, but there are other forms of connected vehicle. If there's technology in a vehicle, then it's a connected vehicle. Think of your traditional ICE, internal combustion vehicle, engine vehicles. If they are connected and you would have navigation, for example, or over the air updates for those, then they are also connected vehicles. Autonomous vehicles are also connected vehicles. Drones and eVTOLs, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, those are also connected vehicles. So if there's technology and an external connection, then it's a connected vehicle.
Got you. You explained just previous there about the threats. What's industry doing about it to protect vehicles? What's the current state in terms of protection?
So the automotive manufacturing industry has indeed stepped up on this issue. There's a lot of things happening over there. One of the most important ones is a new standard. It's called ISO 21434, which is the cybersecurity of road vehicles. It was published in August 2021. And what it does is it looks at it from a holistic perspective when the vehicle manufacturing is going on. So it develops a cybersecurity management system and evaluates the cybersecurity of the vehicle from the concept phase to the product phase to the actual operations phase, and then end of the vehicle support, that phase. Because also when we think about end of vehicle life cycle, there might be data, personal information on the vehicle, so that has to be wiped clean when the vehicle is no longer being used. So that it looks at that. Another very important one, and which is a mandate. So ISO 21434 is a standard which is, which is something which industry is adopting itself. But there's a mandate in UNECE countries, so United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, which includes most of Europe, but some other countries also. Um, so that has a mandate that a CSMS, a cybersecurity management system, must be in place in vehicles which are being sold in Europe uh, by 2024, and then they've given some extension on that. Canada is also an observer to UNEC WP29, and the actual mandate is called R155 and R156, and these are focused on cybersecurity vehicles. I am also a member of the technical committee of the CSA group, Canadian Standards Alliance group, and that is developing a CAF code to ensure that there's secure development of vehicles, secure deployment of vehicles on a road. So there is a lot of work happening, and there's a lot of I would say good work happening in this space to make our roads more secure.
Is that work volunteer work when you work for Standards Association, Canadian
Correct.
Standards?
Yes, correct. I am passionate about this area. I do feel that it adds a lot of value to where we are in the mobility space. So yes, that is volunteer.
Plus it connects you. It connects you. I'm
Of
just
course.
thinking about the connected vehicle. It connects you into the human side of cybersecurity.
Yes, yes. And there's a lot of subject matter experts in these committees. There's a lot of good knowledge being shared. So there's a lot of value add over there.
We've about 6 minutes to go before the break. I want to talk about the concept. Two things I want to talk about is the fleet cyber, drill into that a little bit more. But before we go into that, I'd like to talk about it's a fantastic terminology. A car is now a computer on wheels. And I'd
Yes.
like you just to expand. I mean, people, this is a huge revolution in how people see the world, and see they're like a car. A car is a computer on wheels. It's the merging of the computer and IT systems and AI systems with the car.
Totally, totally. So now as we move forward, so a normal car these days have about 100 ECUs, electronic control units. So that's actually maybe 100 mini computers. So and then it has a different networks inside the vehicle. It is connected through, for example, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, internet connectivity. So it is basically not only one computer; it's a network of computers, the whole car in itself. And then it is talking to other vehicles. It is talking to other infrastructure. So there's a concept of V2X, vehicle to everything communication, vehicle to infrastructure communication, vehicle to vehicle communication, vehicle to device communication. So for example, if there's a pedestrian which is wearing a device, maybe the vehicle can talk to that. Then there's vehicle to grid communication, which is the electric grid, of course. So the vehicle in itself is just one point, but the whole ecosystem of vehicles is something which is connected to each other, connected to the infrastructure, connected to the vehicle to cloud at the back end. So where is your data going? We are using now a lot of different apps on the vehicle, and those apps are sending data somewhere. So the vehicle is much more than just the traditional vehicle which we use to drive. It is certainly something where there's a lot of data, there's a lot of apps, there's a lot of different activities which are happening from a technology perspective, and all of that, of course, needs to be secured.
AJ, I was told recently by a mechanic, and I never went into into it in any depth, but he said vehicles that are not connected are in demand. Old vehicles. That's what he told me. He said that people don't want their vehicle. They don't want all these connections. They don't want surveillance. They want to remain autonomous. Have you heard about this? This is a growing trend. There are
Yeah,
people who resist. Go ahead.
I think there are all kinds of people there. There are early adopters who love the technology in the vehicle and who want more of it. But of course, there are people who don't want too much technology in the vehicle. I'll give you an example of myself. I like to go on long drives, but I don't like to use the navigation system. So I don't want to put, the destination in my navigation system. What I like to do is find the route myself from point A to point B. So from Toronto, I went to Boston, for example, and I got lost on the way, but I found some amazing spots, small villages, small towns, some beautiful scenery, and that's what one loses out, right? I mean, if I put something in the navigation system, I'll get there, yes, but I will not get lost and not find the amazing spots in nature. So there are things which are the things which are positive, but as with all technology innovations, there are things which are negative. And you mentioned surveillance, that is of course one of them, but there are other aspects to technology which is some people of course don't want to have that too much of technology in their lives, which of course we now do in most cases.
2 minutes. Just I know you touched on fleet cybersecurity. Just tell us again what for a company that runs 100 trucks, 1,000 trucks, whatever. What is it they're looking to? What benefit do they get from this cybersecurity? I mean, obviously they can study the fuel usage, and the performance of trucks and so on, and preventive maintenance. But go ahead, just talk about it from a fleet perspective.
Well, the first thing is that from various um, regulations which are out there, there is the requirement to make sure that your technology systems are secure, and fleets are your our technology system. So that's just from the um, regulations which are out there. But from a business perspective, the question becomes, if there is a hacking, if there's a breach, if there's a configuration error, and the fleet's trucks break down, like one of them or 10 of them because of an over the air update, how much business loss there is. I'll give you another example. If a truck is taken over and causes an accident, what's the reputation loss? So for fleet owners, it is very important to look at it more from a cyber risk governance and compliance perspective, rather than just from a vehicle perspective, that okay, vehicle goes from point A to point B, it is important to look at it from what are the risks which are there, and we do carry out threat and risk assessments, and based on those threat and risk assessments, we can come up with a detailed, controls which need to be in place, like cyber monitoring is a control, or what about authentication, what about what is the software on the vehicle itself. So there are many benefits to fleet cyber, but more than the benefits, it's all about making sure that your operations do not stop, and your trucking company or your fleet municipality, continues to be in operation.
Gotcha. My guest today is AJ Khan and Stephen Armstrong. You're listening to the Innovation Nation on Career Buzz on CIUT 89.5 FM in Toronto and worldwide online at ciut.fm.